Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with something that is really cool. We've got some models from a brand new company that I have never taken a look at before. These are by Paleobiota Figurines, and they are really cool. These are all handmade figures that they are creating, and they have all sorts of different species that they are working on. And as you can see, I have acquired 3 different figures from this brand, and there are 3 really cool ones, really cool species that they've created, some of which I've never seen anyone create before. And now if I actually bring the camera up here just a little bit, because the figures are actually pretty small, but to give you a chance to look at what is included with this, you can see there is an information sheet in here that not only tells us the species that we have here, but also tells us all about the different species that we have here, which is really fun. Also tells you a bit about Paleobiota Figurines overall, which is also really cool. So I love immediately the fact that they include this stuff with the purchase, again, to let you know what you are dealing with, what you've got, and give you a little bit of information about them, you know, teach you a little bit about the species. Also telling you, again, like where you would find them and everything. So that's really neat. Again, not every company goes to these lengths to not only give you really cool models, but also to teach you about the species. So as you can see, again, like I said, really quite small, but really quite impressive here at first glance. The only way to truly tell, though, is with a closer look, so let's jump to it right now. Now, I do also want to point out that this information sheet that I had shown you guys is actually like an early look at this. He's going to turn these into cards, and of course you would get, you know, one of these as in card form, basically, for each figure you would purchase. So I did want to clarify that before we went any further. So the very first one I wanted to show you guys is the one that probably most people were looking at straight out of the gate, and that is the Clidastes. And this is actually a species of Mosasaur. Now, I'm not too familiar with this species of Mosasaur, but again, another thing that's really fun about this company specifically is the fact that they bring species that you may not be too familiar with to light, and that's exactly what they've already done here with this, again, species of Mosasaur. Hopefully I didn't mispronounce the name, because as I said, I'm not too familiar with it. But you can see he has sculpted this out really quite nicely. He's got a very cool swimming pose for it, which looks really nice. And I'm a massive fan of the colors that he's chosen for this. I think the colors honestly complement the species and the figure really nicely. He's done a very good job, especially the way that we have like the bluish tones, and then we transition to a really nice looking green for the head, which I am a big fan of. You can also see the eyes are painted. We've got a really cool patterning as you move up here into the face, as you have like a black that kind of stripes down through the jaw. You can see the mouth itself sculpted pretty nicely, and as I said, these are really quite small figures, so I'm definitely impressed that they look as nice as they do in both sculpt and paint. But you can see it does have a nice turn to the head, turning its head toward its right. Maybe it just caught sight of something that it's interested in adding to its stomach. I'm not entirely sure. You can see some of the green kind of tapers off here on the underside into like the chest region of the Mosasaur. But as you move back, you can see how the green again also starts to break up here on the back. You've got a black stripe that kind of falls along the side, and then you can see we've got 2 different variations of blues. We've got a light blue and an almost equally light blue, but a little bit of a more vibrant blue that sort of like spots and patterns through. There's also like some white that patterns down here into the side of the animal and down into the flipper, which also looks really fun. As you continue to move back, you can even see some slight hints of like pinkish tones popping up here and there. He has added quite a bit of paintwork to this, and again, very nice, very impressive paintwork to it. You can also see the curvatures of the body from the underside. The rear flippers, again, also sculpted quite nicely. And then as you move back, you get a pretty hefty amount of black kind of spotting showing up as you lead back here into the tail fin of the figure. And you can see the entire upper part of that tail fin is also a nice black. And again, a really cool figure. So small, like I said, so it's very impressive. Like I also said, how good this looks considering its size, and a very cool species choice for sure, one that I definitely did not have in my collection prior to this. The next one is the Dickinsonia, and that one is definitely a really cool species choice as well. Another one that I definitely did not have in my collection prior to this, because Again, it's just not something that you often see anybody make. I don't know that I've ever actually seen anyone make a Dickinsonia, and it's one of the absolute most ancient creatures on this planet, potentially a relative of ours, which actually I think it stated that in the information card. I was just going to grab it, but you'll just have to take my word for it. But I do know that this is a very much so ancient creature, something that was probably one of the earliest creatures on this planet, which is really cool. Definitely makes this a pretty monumental figure in the line from Paleobiota overall. And you can see he's also not only sculpted this out pretty nicely, he's also given a good bit of paintwork, as we've got different variations of greens, lighter and darker shades of greens, and then you've got kind of like a light gray that sort of spots through the course of the figure. But again, this one is just really cool. It's also incredibly small. You can see it there within my fingertip. It's definitely a very small figure, but it's like I said, really cool just because it is such a important species in the history of this planet, but also just a really cool looking figure. And to show you the broad range of what they are creating, what they are working on, here's the final model that we have. This is actually a Metasequoia, and that is an ancient tree. And now you can see that this is basically a fossilized look at one, which is really cool. Again, I love the fact that they are including living creatures as well as fossilized models in their collection, in their lineup. You can see he's even gone ahead and given this a little variation of colors. You can see tans and browns included in here, and then of course a nice dark brown highlighting the actual tree itself. And again, a really neat one. This one would really be fun to add to any sort of, like, maybe if you're recreating like a museum display or something like that, or even maybe to add to a diorama, just showing a fossil from a much earlier point in time compared to whatever diorama you are creating. But he's done a pretty good job on this one as well. Again, it's really fun, and like I said, some really cool species. You don't see people create things like this, like, honestly, ever. I don't know that I've ever really seen that before. So anytime that I can find something that's brand new, something I've never seen previously, it's definitely a great day and shows you how exciting the company creating it is overall. So another really fun entry into the Paleobiota line. So now, as I've already mentioned numerous times in this review, these are quite small. For a size, you are looking at a little over 3.5 inches, or right around 9 centimeters, basically, for the Clidastes. And then for the Dickinsonia, you're looking at about an inch or maybe a hair under 2.5 centimeters. And then for the Metasequoia, you are looking at roughly, this one's a little bit like it's not exactly perfectly shaped. Why is my camera losing focus? Because, you know, you can see it's a little bit more fossil-like as far as its appearance, so it's not going to have perfectly round edges or anything like that. But you're looking at about 1.5 inches in length in this position, or a little over 3.5 centimeters, heading toward 4, but not quite. If we go the opposite direction, you are looking at more of like 1.25 inches, or around 3 centimeters. So hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of the size. And if not, for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Paleobiota models here. And you can see they are, as I said, really quite small. You could definitely see that here next to these figures. I don't really know much of anything that's going to compare well with these because they are so small. So, I mean, as far as any of these go, like, I don't have models of any of these in my collection, so I don't have any other versions to kind of compare with these. So that's something to take into consideration straight away. But as far as these figures go, I think there's probably only like one other comparison I could probably do, and that would be with a Mattel and Captives minifigure here. So if you do happen to have any of these in your collection, this should help to give you a good idea of the size of these Paleobiota models. They are actually meant to be in 1/75th scale, so that would tell you straight away that they are really quite small, but you can see again next to these minifigures that they are without a doubt in the minifigure size range. So I'm really quite excited about this. Again, I think Paleobiota is doing really well already, but they have a lot of potential moving into the future, again, as far as what they can work on and create. And just based off of these first 3 models that I've had the pleasure of checking out for you guys, kind of shows you the direction that they'd probably be heading in, and that would be mostly obscure species straight out of the gate, because again, we've got 3 species that you have never seen. I know I haven't at the very least, but you've never seen on my channel before, you know, crossed right off the list here, as we've got a very cool Mosasaur species in the Clidastes, and I think he's done a really good job on the overall appearance. It's got a really nice natural swimming appearance. The sculpt overall looks really quite nice, and he's got some super cool colors. I think that might be one of the things I'm most impressed about with this one, is just how he's created such a really nice looking color scheme on something that still looks natural but really flashy at the same time. And for some reason, like, it looks so good, but it's not colors I personally would have ever expected. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like it so much, is because it's something that seems a little out of the ordinary for a species like this, but still on the final product looks really good. And as I mentioned, again, a very obscure species of Mosasaur that I'm really happy to be able to add to my collection. On top of that, we also have the Dickinsonia, which is, again, as I've already mentioned a few times, one of, I would say, the most important creatures in the history of this planet. Also one of the earliest, so it's really neat to be able to have a model of that species as well. And on top of that, the Metasequoia is a very cool model with a fossilized look to it. And again, considering you don't really see too many models of prehistoric trees and stuff like that, I think that makes this model really fun as well. And he's also done a good job of, you know, sculpting it out, of course, but also painting it, giving it variation of color and stuff that helps to make it look pretty legit. So overall, some really fun stuff here from Paleobiota, and I am really, like I said, excited to see what they're going to be creating moving into the future. If you are interested in grabbing some of this stuff for yourself, I will include a link in the description to the eBay store of Paleobiota. I will also include a link to their DeviantArt page where you can check them out and follow them there, and of course you'll be able to stay updated on everything that they are creating, as they are going to be sharing images and stuff on there of what they are producing. So make sure you check all of that out, and of course like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.